Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about studying, and I'm going to give a pointer as to how I used to study. So I'm going to give tips on the best way, in my opinion, to study for any kind of medical professions, or this could be applied across the board overall. Hey guys, I'm Daniel from Dolier Media, and I'd like to begin by saying that a lot of people that are watching this channel are probably in nursing school or respiratory school or some other kind of school, and you're worried about your exams, you're worried about the best way to study or getting your A's on your test. I like to start by saying getting A's is not the most important thing. When you're going to be working as an RT, you're going to see that you don't know what kind of grades anybody got. And honestly, nobody asks what kind of grades you got in school. When you're on your interview, nobody's going to say, hey, did you get A's in your anatomy physiology class? Nobody really cares about that. The most important thing I'd like to say is that it's more important for you to remember all the material or a lot of the material than it is to get a good grade. So let's say you only get C's on all your tests, but you actually retained all the information. That's much more valuable to you than it is to actually get A's on all your tests but not remember everything. With that being said, I'd like to say don't sweat it. Don't worry too much about your grades. Honestly, it doesn't matter. The most important thing that really does matter is that you have good work ethic. Me being an RT for about 6 years now, I much rather work with someone who has a really strong work ethic, somebody who's not lazy, somebody who doesn't make others pick up their slack, somebody who's competent, than somebody who had all A's. To be honest with you, personality is way more important than getting all A's. Now, with that being said, you still do want to get some good grades, and at least you want to be able to retain the information, if not just for passing the class. You want to know what the material is so that later on when you're faced with a problem in work, you actually could recall what you learned in school. All right, so now let me talk about how the best way to study is, in my opinion. This is the method I used, and anybody that's used this method, they've been pretty positive about it. So this is how it starts. You're gonna need 2 people, no more, no less. The best person to study with is gonna be somebody from a study group in your class. It's a lot harder to do this with somebody who's not in your class or not studying the same material. Both of you guys are ideally gonna have either an iPad, a laptop, or just notes from the lecture, but you wanna study the material, you wanna have it in front of you. So let's say you're studying for a test or a midterm, and there's about 60 slides to go over. The best way to do it is this. You get your slides, put them on a PowerPoint presentation, or however else, like I said, the material might be. If it's notes, get your lecture notes from your class. And this is how you're gonna do it. 2 of you guys sit across from each other, and then one of you guys gets your actual notes or your PowerPoint slides. How you start is this. You go over each question and then have them recall the answer from their memory. If they do not recall the answer, only give them the correct answer. Never feed anybody a false answer or never give anybody multiple choice questions. The reason why is because they're gonna be able to retain the true answer to the question, and they're gonna create some kind of neural link in their head where they associate the answer to the question. Let's say that the question is from A&P, from like bones. How many bones in the human body? And the answer is 206. If they can't remember the number, don't give them multiple choice options. Don't give them a fake answer. It's just strictly how many bones in the human body? Answer 206. If they cannot recall it, give it to them. Move on to the next question after that. So you work down your slides. You work down as much as you can. Maybe space it out into sections, maybe like 3-4 slides at a time. Then what you're gonna do is switch. Have them read you the questions, and now that you were able to see the actual answers and see the questions, see how well you could recall it. So now the person is asking you, how many bones in the human body? And you have to be able to recall that. Let's say you don't recall that, they give you the answer, it's fine. You move on to the next question. Next question might be, what's the largest bone of the human body? And you can recall that, you say it's a femur, perfect. You go over that section. Let's say there's 3, 4, 5 slides or a few pages of notes. You keep going back and forth, maybe 2, 3, 4 times until both of you guys are able to recall most of the information on the slides. That's the first step to this study method. It is time consuming, but like I said, you're gonna not only be able to recall this information for the test, but it's also gonna help you in the long run. Few years down the road, you're gonna surprisingly remember things that you learned in your school that otherwise you probably would not recall. So step number 2, once you guys done this a few times back and forth and you've kind of gotten the gist of the questions and the answers, now it's time to switch it up. And now what you're going to want to do is give them answers and try to have them remember what the question might be to that. So if the answer is 206, you ask the person that you're studying with, 206 is associated with what? What's the question? And they say, how many bones in the human body? So now they start recalling the question to the answer. So it kind of works in a two-way step. First, you remember all the questions and you associate the answers to it. Then you remember the answers and you associate the questions to it. Now, what's cool about this method is that after you go back and forth a few times, because you're seeing the note in front of you at one time, and then you're also recalling the note, you really get it ingrained into you. If you do this maybe 1 or 2 days, sometimes 3 days in a row, I guarantee you that when you're going to be taking your final or your midterm, things that you learned in your first semester, first part of the class, you're going to be able to recall it because it's so ingrained into your mind. So definitely try this study method out. If you do want more information on how to do this, I'm willing to answer any questions on YouTube. Just leave a comment down below and I'm going to answer your question about this. So let me give you another example that's going to be outside of medical, just because, like I said, it applies to everything. Let's say the question is, who was the first president? The partner that you're studying with has to be able to recall that question. You're looking at the answer, you're associating it in your head. So who's the first president? And they say George Washington. Cool, move on to your next question. Who was the 16th president? Answer, Abraham Lincoln. Cool, you saw it, you associated it. They didn't, they recalled the information. Now you switch the notes. They're holding a notebook or they're holding the laptop and they're looking at the questions with the answers. So now you have to be able to recall what you saw. Next step after that is then you start giving them answers. So let's say you've done this 3-4 times and I look at you and I say, George Washington, who was he? And you have to be able to remember, oh, he was the first president. The question is, who was the first president? Or Abraham Lincoln. And you're able to now recall information because of the repetitive nature of what this does. It really creates a neural network in your mind where you're able to remember this. This is the best way that I've learned to study. In my opinion, this is what got me through school. Try this method out. If you don't like this method, let me know. If you do like this method, let me know. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck on your midterms, finals, or any test you have to take. Have a good day.